It's a time for package from China. But let's talk about the product itself and the overall quality and what is my personal experience when it comes to this device. First of all, I find it quite fascinating that this device is so small form factor and still has the capabilities to run a lot of different games. So while holding this handheld in my hands, I must say that feels quite comfortable. That's my first, let's say, thing that I already noticed. And the overall quality is similar to all the other products I've reviewed in the past. So one of the things that I find very cool with ANEO is just the form factor, especially the back. The gives us just a very nice, comfortable way to play. The configuration is similar to the previous models of the ANEO, only the buttons have been placed in a different position. What is also very interesting is the joystick they're using. You can see at the side they have these extra rubber compound with a grip, and it's very comfortable. The form factor is absolutely great, but what I noticed is it does have like a very nice tension to it when it comes to the travel, but also the travel is quite short. So the overall experience is quite different when looking at different handhelds I've reviewed. The overall quality of the buttons is absolutely great. Not the form factor, yeah, it's tiny, that's one thing to be sure. And comparing them with my very thick fat finger, yeah, it's not going to be the most comfortable thing to play. But when you're pressing it, you can just feel these long travel membrane buttons are very nice. Another part I personally really liked about this new ANEO is just the D-pad and how it feels and plays. It has a very nice, really cool smushy effect to it. I really love how this actually plays. It does like a very long travel, but I can tell you playing fighting games I had no problems whatsoever. And underneath they made a decision to put all the other buttons where we have different and bigger models, they put them mostly of the side over here. It's not a big of a deal, they give it a different position, and these buttons are pressing start, select, and of course bringing on the ANEO like menu itself. So in overall the form factor and the button placement is absolutely great. I have no problem whatsoever using the D-pad or the analog stick, because the form factor, everything has been squeezed together, and that's, let's say, not a really bad thing, to be honest. But how will that basically hold up against, like I say, an Odin? And Odin having a similar kind of a style. The only big difference that we're going to get when you're looking at the Odin, this thing is very slimmed down, and you have these very nice grip at the side. I always find this a very nice, very cool like device. But I must say that even this thing is heavier and also as thicker. This thing plays so much more comfortable when it comes to the Odin, for example. Even these things have a lot of similarities when it comes to the button placement and stuff like that. But the weight itself of the Odin is 372 grams. And when we're going to get ourselves like the beefy other device, there we're going to get ourselves 516. So it's not a huge difference, but I can tell you need to go to the gym and train some hands because you're going to need it. And for a very long play session, yeah, you're absolutely going to be having the feeling that you're holding something heavy. So I think this is absolutely one of the sweet spots when it comes to the Odin. 350, 400 grams. Above that, you're going to absolutely feel it over time when you're going to play for a very long time. So where this new model is over 600 grams and is maybe the heaviest and the biggest of them, I think, and also a thing you need to take consideration when a device is getting bigger, sometimes it's even more comfortable to hold, and that is the thing that I've noticed with these two. So when you're looking at this particular model, it's absolutely great, but because of the form factor, it's smaller, you need to hold it differently, then the weight is also important when it comes to that. But what are we actually going to get more? At the bottom we're going to get ourselves different connections and the stereo speakers. To begin with, the stereo speakers, they sound absolutely amazing. But it is what quite interesting is that they're not forward facing like tiny speakers, and they still sound absolutely amazing. Most of the time I put around 80% volume to get the best experience. At the bottom we're going to get ourselves the jack and the Type-C connection, and we do have the option to expand the memory or basically add another memory. And I can tell you you're going to need it because the 512 gigabyte is absolutely not enough. At the top I'm going to find another Type-C connection, volume control, an on-off switch, and of course you're having the exhaust over here. I'm going to give you an example how loud the fan will go if you're going to get into the maximum performance of the device itself. Alright, so next up, let's plug in the Type-C connection, because we're going to charge it. That is something you're going to do a lot with this device, because the battery life is quite of a bummer. I really love the LEDs underneath the joysticks. It will indicate that the system is charging. Charging time is not very long, but the same goes also for the battery life. So when looking at the device itself and checking out how much wattage you're going to need for a certain game, the battery life is not great. I think that is the biggest downfalls of these, let's say, smaller models. Less space, more heat, and we're just going to get a less lifespan when it comes to the battery. But let's boot it up and talk about the software and what you can do with it. So to begin with, it's a very easy navigation when it comes to a combination of the touchscreen. Already mentioned before, I recommend using a physical keyboard and mouse for setting everything up. So this is the Asian Neo, the program they're getting with the device itself. This is more like an all-in-one product than what you're going to get with the product and software combined. You can just easily like boot up your games. When clicking on it, will automatically boot up into, let's say, the Steam. You do have some cool like backgrounds that automatically will be downloaded. But what you're also going to get when pressing the tiny buttons or the hidden buttons over here. The right one doesn't do anything, but pressing the left one, we're going to get ourselves the keyboard. So in combination with the, let's say, digital keyboard and the touchscreen, we can do all kinds of cool things, and it is very convenient. Another thing, yeah, when you're going to use, you better set, so far I understand, you need to use this software, pressing the button here at the right, we're going to get ourselves the special ANEO tool. I really love this. The ANEO tool will give you the option if you want to mess with the fan, you want to adjust the brightness, the resolution, or in this case you want to pull more wattage from the battery and getting better performance, especially when it comes to AAA games. Another thing you can do with navigation, you have all kinds of like launchers, but you can also use the big picture mode when it comes to Steam itself. With the new interface, looks kinda like the original Steam Deck. This thing is absolutely great. Combined with the original big picture mode, I think it's such a big convenient thing to play and navigate through the games that you already have been installed or streamed from your main PC. I think it's a very cool configuration. So basically there are two different ways you can play. But what I did notice, if you want to use the tool, take consideration you always need to load up ANEO, the software itself, before you're going to get into the big picture mode. Let's start with Dirt 5. So this is a particular game that you need to tweak getting this on the go ready. So first of all, I have set it to the full HD, or better said 1080p resolution, but beside that every single settings have been set to low, or better said very low. But what you're going to get, this game still looks amazing in my opinion, and we're going to get ourselves like a 48, 50 FPS, even like peaks to 60 sometimes. So it's still playable, and we can just enjoy this on the go. But take consideration we're using the maximum wattage over here, and oh boy, this thing sounds like a vacuum cleaner. So one of the things I'm going to play a lot on this device is just indie games. One of the reasons is because it doesn't need a lot of wattage and the power from the device. So I think this is so much more convenient. You can play longer sessions, and in my opinion it looks just great. Another thing is the D-pad, I love it. Just gonna be honest, I love this freaking D-pad. It is so very comfortable to play when it comes to these games. It's even more an old school retro feeling than the analog stick. But both have been placed in a very good position. So when it comes to Tekken 7, just wanted to see how far we can push this machine. The reason why is very simple. In the previous videos I tested out different kind of Neo products, and I noticed that you could play them on full 60 FPS. And with this tinier model I did see some minor dips all the way down to 45. A little bit bummer, in my opinion it's still playable. You can tweak the settings. Now it has been set to full HD and even having the option to all settings set to high. So there is still room for improvement, or better said improvement, when it comes to like tweaking the game itself. So that is a positive thing, but this game is playable with some tweaks in the end. Mainly I will use this device for older fighting games, but also indie games, simply because they run absolutely great on here. This weird game doesn't even support the full HD resolution, but it comes close and it does look amazing. Oh man, mess it up. Nevertheless, it does have a great performance and I can really enjoy some Mortal Kombat on here. Where I love myself some AAA games here on this device to bring with me. I think mainly it's just a very cool device to play some old school indie games and put them on full HD resolution and the best graphics you can get. Another thing you can do when it comes to the ANEO, you can just basically get it all the way to Pro mode maybe. And the reason why, you don't need the extreme power of the device itself to run these indie games. So that's going to be way more convenient if you just want to play for a longer session. But in the end, when you're looking at this new compact model, it has a lot of power. When you're looking at the previous model I've reviewed, the 6000 series is not bad at all. You can play even some AAA games, but it comes with a price simply because you're looking at the size, how compact it is and how hot it gets. Especially when you're touching the LCD, you can just feel it. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it will be great to see you in the next video.